Well, everyone, this is where we end for the night. I wish I could say we were ending it on a more positive, upbeat note. My hope this evening was to get the timing cover off the engine, get it cleaned, get the new crank seal in, get it ready for reinstallation, and then start examining the timing chain and guides and tensioner, make sure everything looked good, and potentially start to disassemble that and maybe even get the new ones on. Unfortunately, we've hit a snag. We did get all I did get all the bolts out of the timing cover except for one. I was eager to get the cover off. I'm not sure if it was my fault but see these bolts that come up through the pan into the timing cover there. This back one is giving me difficulty. I think somebody's been in here because there's RTV and Loctite on all these bolts, and frankly, some of them are really hard to get out, and they really shouldn't be. In particular, let's see if I can reverse the camera. We have the head of that bolt. There's some gray RTV around it. It looks like somebody got a little messy with it, and when I went to take it off, there was some oil and RTV caked up under there. I didn't see it. There was very little wrench clearance between the pan and the frame here, and it rounded. So as you can see, I've started to mangle the side of the pan here to try and bend it up just a little bit to see if I get a little more access there. I tried to beat a 3/8 on there. It's a 10 millimeter. I successfully did that. It just kept camming off every time I tried to loosen it. So, now I have a few thoughts on how to take it off. None of them are pretty. None of them are really, I'm thinking as I'm discussing here, I can cut the head off. I can get in there. I think there's enough room for me to get in there with my air cutoff wheel, and I can grind the head of it off. The only problem is I don't think there's going to be enough of a shank left to grab on once I get the timing cover off to get the remaining portion of the shaft off. If that's the case, I really don't want to put the timing cover back on. Missing a bolt. I think I can cut it off without damaging the pan, and then I can just bend the corner of the pan back down again. I think that'll work. The question then will just be, can I, drill it out? Is it Loctited in there? How hard will it be to actually pull it out? Do I think I have enough clamping pressure between that bolt and that bolt to not put it back on? I mean, is there another way of trying to back this out? I mean, I could try and cut a slot in it first before I cut it off completely, but I can't really get a screwdriver up in there and honestly, I think it's just going to round off. I could try and file it if I bend the pan up a little more. File it down to a slightly smaller size yet and give it one more shot before I give up. I may try that. See if I can get it down to a 9 millimeter with just touching the edges of it with the cutoff wheel or a file. I don't know. I just don't really know at this point. There's no gasket on this, so there's not like, I just really am not sure what to do at this point because this is not something I anticipated happening. Nobody ever does, but here I am. And it's holding up this car from getting fixed now and moving on to the other items on the car that need to be taken care of, like putting everything back together and making sure it runs correctly, cleaning it and getting it back up for sale. So this is it's not a huge deal, but it's, you know, definitely not helping make this job go smoothly. So I'm going to give this some thought tonight. You know, this is kind of a good lesson for everybody. When you get presented with these challenges, and this is more than just automotive, this is life in general. This stuff happens, you know. You don't, things happen, you know, that you don't anticipate. You think everything's gonna go perfect, it's gonna be great, and in an ideal world, everything would go perfectly, and you would have all the tools you need. Everything would, you know, there wouldn't be any problems. But we live in the land of reality, and reality is things aren't always the way you plan them to be. So you have to have some margin. Oops, I'm stepping on the other two bolts. Don't let me forget those. Put them in my bolt box. You have to have some margin, and you need to have the ability to adapt a little bit. You have to adapt and pivot. You know, there's a wise general once said, what is it? No plan survives first contact with the enemy. I think it was a U.S. president or general. It could have been Robert E. Lee. It's true. You need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy for how we're going to attack this. But when things like this come up, you have to be able to adapt and overcome. How do we survive this situation? How do we really just get this bolt out and move on with this job? There are special tools out there to remove that bolt. I'm sure if I went to Snap-on or some of those companies, I might be able to find something to take that out. The problem is you can't get straight on at that bolt. You have to get on it from the side. I really don't know. I don't really think any kind of a easy out tool, unless you have like a right angle drill to get in there and drill that out, which is an option. I could pick up a right angle drill and attempt to drill that out. I just assume use my cutoff wheel and just hit it real good with it and snap the head off and be on our way. Sometimes that's what you have to do. It's not going to happen. We're going to brute force it a little bit. We're going to get the cover off, and then we're going to deal with it once it's off, and then we'll be short a screw, but it's a metric thread. I'm sure there's an appropriate size at Home Depot or in my collections here on the wall. I will find something appropriate. I keep a lot of metric and spare car hardware around. In fact, I have nothing but metric screws, I believe, in this box over here from decades ago. So I'll find something. We'll improvise. We'll fix the pan, and we're going to get past it. I know that. I've encountered this so many times working on cars. And this is an important life lesson. Like I said, think about it, take a break, walk away. Because when you stick with it, you get angry, which I'm starting to get a little angry because I'm not accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish today. So save it for another day, take a shower, cool off, get some sleep. I'll probably have an idea tomorrow morning drinking coffee of how I could try it a different way. Um, or I'll just do a quick Google search online, or I'll do something to say, all right, well, how do people deal with this? How do you take that off? I'm sure somebody will have a slick way of doing it for this particular vehicle. And if not, like I said, I'll either cut the head off or I'm gonna window the side of that oil pan lip like the other parts. I'll cut a couple little slits in it, and then I'll bend the side of the pan up a little bit. I'll cut a couple little flats on it, and I'll put an open end wrench on it and give it a try. All I got to do is crack it just a little bit, and that thing's gonna come right off. So there's a number of ways of getting it off and attacking it, and that's just like life. There's always multiple ways to skin a cat. So take a few minutes, figure out a couple ways that you can solve the problem. Pick the best option that's going to be the least risky and give it a try. I mean, I'll try and get that bolt out one more time with one of those other methods. I might get lucky. I've been lucky before with that kind of a thing where I didn't think I was going to be. So that's all I have for tonight. I'm rambling a little bit, probably because I'm tired and a little aggravated. So have a good night. Midnight Mechanic signing off just a little bit before midnight.